Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm really excited for today's panel. My name is Scott. I can't believe it, but I've been working for Make now. I'm in my 5th year, and I'm on the value engineering team. So I'm joined by 3 giants in the Make community. Our very own Dan Zroost.
Hi, guys.
Laurent Salomon. And Lior Talman. So if you know Make and you've been around for a while, some of these faces will be familiar. These are absolutely great guys, and this is truly a session for makers who like to build things. And we're going to get into some interesting topics, and I'm really excited about it. A few points on format for today's panel. We're going to start with a lot of content, so we're going to do our best to get through all of it. And if our hope is to open things up for Q&A, we're going to do our best, but we have a lot to share, so we don't want to shortchange anybody on anything. If there are questions that overflow towards later, please hold on to them, save them for happy hour. Let's make sure we give our panelists just a moment to catch their breath after today. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and jump into things. So the session itself is going to really be broken up into two main topics. So the first is building, and the second is maintaining. Before we do that, though, I want you to get to know our panelists just a little bit more deeply. So first is Dan. He's to my left here. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And how long have you been using Make?
Okay, so I'm value engineer, same as Scott, but we do completely different things. So I have multiple hats. I do a little bit of enterprise sales. I take care of our partners from technical point of view if they have questions. Do we have any partners in the audience? Oh, a lot. Okay. Let's see if you learn something new. And I also do, for example, partner trainings, which you know me from probably. How about you, Lauren?
I work at ChargeGuru as the head of engineering. So I have 19 software engineering in my team. And my company is deploying charging stations for electric vehicles. And we, as a tech team, are responsible for making it happen with Make that we've been using now for 3 years. What about you, Lior?
So I'm a system integration engineer at AppsFire. Basically, we are under the information systems team, and we build, we're called BizApps. BizApp solutions, and we build solutions to the entire organization. Many departments, usually with the operations of each departments, we build all sorts of stuff, anything you can think of. And using Make for the past 7 years.
Yeah, I'm the same as
Integromat at the time.
Leo. I'm also like 7 years, maybe 8 now.
Yeah, Make before it was Make.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, guys. Can't wait to jump into some of our topics. So again, quickly, build, maintain. So let's just jump straight into building. So there's a lot of ways to think about scenarios, and a lot of ways to put them together. Some people tend to lean towards the really big scenarios. Some like them a little smaller. Dan, what do you think is the best way to actually think about your approach to building scenarios?
So honestly, 2 years ago, I would take pride in building as complex scenarios as possible, like that one, which only I would understand, and nobody else. Right? You can impress guys like these with this, but not people who are supposed to maintain it after you. And until recently, it was kind of hard to build scenarios in a simple way when you had to deal with complex process, right? But earlier this year, we not discovered, well, kind of we did, but we introduced sub-scenarios and scenarios as functions, and it just completely changed the way how I solve complex problems. So essentially, you can build reusable components. Maybe how many of you are still using HTTP to webhook kind of? Yeah. So maybe you should reconsider and start using scenarios and sub-scenarios because they allow you to pass data between scenarios in a standardized way, right? So there is inputs you can define, there's outputs you can define at the end, and you can wait in the parent for the sub-scenario to run. And I think there is not even a timeout limit on sub-scenarios as long as you can fit it into the 40 minutes. So it really changed for me a lot, and it simplified um, the way to manage complex scenarios. And it's not just about sub-scenarios, but even when talking about the current AI agent, not the new one, because the new one was kind of new even for me. Even within the agent, you can reuse those sub-scenarios, but at the same time, you can now use modules as tools for the agent. Right? So those are also reusable components. Technically, it's a simple scenario with scenarios inputs at the beginning and outputs at the end. But it's a component which can be reused across multiple agents, for example. So at the end of the day, when I was still trying to impress people with this nonsense, I eventually had to convert it. Right? So if we go to the next slide, this
I just got to call out the picture taking scenarios.
Do you find it impressive? I mean, it's horrible.
Let them.
So, when I refactor the scenario, it looked like this. And of course, in the middle, there is few sub-scenarios being called, and now it's much more legible. I know what's happening, and I'm pretty sure that if any of you had to maybe fix it or something, you would be able to read it, as opposed to that octopus which I had before, right? So yeah, who is not using sub-scenarios should start immediately after waves. How about you, Lauren?
Yeah, Laurent, please.
Yeah, actually, I was having a different approach because of my technical background. So at first, I'm a passionate software developer. I like to code. I dream about code. Blah blah blah. I'm a geek. So I have the reflex of cutting the pieces and reuse small pieces of the scenarios. So while I didn't have the sub-scenario and I was dying and crying for having them soon, I was using, as you guys, the webhooks. The real big limit I had, or the solution I didn't have, was the dependency tree we have now using the sub-scenario. You can see which scenario is calling and from where, and also you can easily add your inputs, calling the sub-scenario. And a nice also one, by design you have it using a webhook, but there is a feature that is really cool, is that you can decide whether or not you are waiting for the output of the sub-scenario you are calling. So it gives you the opportunities to make a big and synchronous scenario, or break it down with single and parallel scenarios. So really, yeah, I'm backing you on this one. People not using the sub-scenario should reconsider. And you can see small pieces of scenarios there. This is an example of the gigantic project that we had this summer. We had to migrate from one Salesforce to another. We had this crazy idea of doing it with Make.
Crazy good.
Crazy good, yeah, because as you can see, it's self-explanatory. It's not that big, and you can go into small pieces that represent small functional parameters, and you can easily see when it breaks. You can easily fix, and you can easily also parallelize with this wait for the output. Here is just a small implementation of a synchronous call of a scenario, and as I am waiting for the output, I can try and catch the error of the scenario and store the response, also with a generic sub-scenario that stores the response. So yeah, sub-scenarios definitely break it down to maintainable pieces. And what you see there is the gigantic migration of all our subscriptions in our accounting system called Zura, and then migrate accounts by accounts and customer by customer and assets by assets. This happened in August, 3 days long, but it worked, and it shouldn't have happened without user make. So yeah, make and sub scenarios.
Yeah, make being used to migrate from one Salesforce to another. That's a massive use case and very impressive.
It's not
Brave,
intuitive
actually.
at first, but really it helped.
Yeah, absolutely. So really cool to hear that that worked for you. Moving on, so now there's a question, right? So you've created these scenarios, they're doing a lot of things, but they're consuming credits. So when we think about that, there's sort of a trade-off sometimes, right? Do you pack everything into a really small scenario to really optimize your credits, or do you maybe make them a little longer? Lior, I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, so continuing on the last point of actually building modular, just like we do with code, right? We have functions, we can use them and keep it small. Regarding optimization, of course, we bring the knowledge and of what we've been doing for a while, and we try to build everything from the get-go. Think about scalability and everything. But we have a saying in AppsFlyer: "Make it work, then make it better." Basically, on the building stage, don't think about optimization too much. There's always a chance to optimize later, refactor on the QA phase once it's ready and it's working. And I wouldn't, stop myself from. I would plan and think about what I'm going to build in the most scalable way, but don't start just counting the credits. Make it work, and then make it much, much better and refactor with the code module. Put whatever you need to save on consumptions, on credits, but build for legibility first. Build for scenarios to actually work and optimize along the way, not at the building stage. That's my
And one
sense.
thing you said earlier in our discussion too was, these scenarios should be delivering value, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you are from the get-go, from the top, counting your consumptions, counting your credits, probably you're building the wrong thing, right? Probably if you were building something that provides this much value, then you wouldn't be counting every cent of what it costs, because it's a no-brainer. And that's what you should be always building, right? Prioritize the things that will bring you the most values, and I promise you, you won't care in the building stage about credits, because you provide so much value to your organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Optimize with time, for sure. Laurent, what do you think?
I don't want to be redundant, and I completely like what you just said. We also have a saying, being a developer and being a manager of developers. I always say to my team, something optimized that doesn't work is just something that doesn't work. So make it work first. We will care about optimization just after, if needed. Regarding our company, we are not launching rockets on the moon, so if it takes 1 minute, it's all right. So there is somewhere also in your equation when you have to figure out, is this necessary to pass, 3, 4, 5 hours using 3, 4, 5 ETPs to just trying to optimize getting from 1 minute to 5 seconds if it's not necessary. My users are logging once a month on their back office to download their invoices, so it takes 1 minute, it takes 5, they just don't care. If the billing or the invoice is wrong, we have a tremendous amount of other issues, so yeah.
Focus on what matters.
Yeah, just make it work.
All right, so Dan, what do you think?
You guys talk about credits?
Operations?
Well, internally, we don't have to care that much, luckily.
It's always nice being make and not caring about it.
Yeah. So
You're the
can
credit
see that
factory.
I'm really going for my quota here, with 800 million credits every month. But seriously,
Shame.
when I build something internally, we should still care, because the power costs something, and there are some technical constraints anyway, even when we have such large amounts. And I don't optimize that much. I don't build like fancy formulas which bring down 2 operations instead of 4. I just build it and go with it. And as long as I can read it 2 months later, I'm fine. Obviously, it's a little different story if you have something firing every second and consuming 10 operations. Yeah, I would probably focus on that. But if it's a scenario which runs once per week, once per day, I wouldn't sweat it.
All right, cool. I think we've beaten this one into the ground.
I will
More point?
Yeah, I will just add something because
Okay,
we were bragging,
more point.
and that was not okay. When we were doing our migration, we did it on a weekend when everyone was off, but us suffering and crying. And then when we started to unleash the big scenario, we just tripled our annual consumption in like 3 days. So that's where we discovered our limits. That's where we discovered, like, even with the enterprise plan, there are limits. So yeah. At some point, you have to care.
When you migrate Salesforce, you have
This is an
you have
important
limits.
one. Definitely.
You have to migrate it. So.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a great segue into guardrails. Laurent, knowing what you know now, what do you think about guardrails in terms of make?
Another saying, I don't trust my team not being able to break the production. So using make and unleashing make to the rest of the company, of course, I don't trust them. It's okay not to trust them, but I don't trust them not to break production. And that's where I think with AI and no-code, our value is really focused on shipping things that stays on production, that are error-proof, and to maintain a minimum of quality. So my first tip to put some guardrails is the team feature. With the team feature, I can have the quota per team. I can also have sandboxes that protects the critical or not critical connections, because this is really a sandbox where you put your connections. And also with the make connector, I came up with a make scenario that watches what everyone is doing in the company and just say, okay, if it's not reviewed by me or my team, it's just shut it down. So we have the team limits. For sure, it's something. But when you go live with everyone, we have to, at some point, figure out what is the good approach and what is the good governance policy. Sorry, I'm French, we have government issues. Governance.
Oh, do you?
Good company over here.
We have governance policies to make in place, and really to make sure that if you are building something and if it's not touching something critical, our Salesforce, HubSpot, SAP, you can name it, we have a team dedicated to protect the almighty powerful connections that can delete records in productions. So yeah, we have to find ways, but first team limits, second governance plan, because really that is the main concern, I think.
I'll add here that our team is connected to most systems, but it's not like you can add more and more teams and just give them a Salesforce connection, right? Because there's a whole Salesforce team and these things needs to be coordinated. So most of the times when we work cross teams, they would call our infrastructure, our workspace, our team, and then we would verify and confirm that the action that they want to do, updating a Salesforce record, is actually legit. We would do that for them and send back the result. And so this is governance, basically. You can't give everyone their permission to do anything they want, and there has to be guardrails somewhere there.
Yeah, so technically speaking, instead of allowing your users to directly use the Salesforce app to write new accounts or delete accounts, You are going to create a webhook somewhere in a team and call it from the team which wants to change that record. And it goes through this filter, which Leo is talking about. It's a proxy, basically. They validate, and if it's all good, they make the actual Salesforce request on behalf of that calling user.
Yeah. And each team gets their permissions, But maybe they can do something on Salesforce, but not other stuff. So.
Exactly. You've got to protect those connections because you don't want emails getting sent from the CEO's account to somebody else. Lior, you've done something amazing with AI and really to put in some guardrails with AppsFlyer. Would you tell us a little bit about Captain Convention?
Captain Convention, except for being a really fun name, is actually a make agent that checks that the scenarios that we've built are complying with all the rules that we have for our own team. We have kind of a playbook of how we need to name scenarios and name every module and everything around actually deploying scenarios into production. Basically, we have this playbook, and we always wanted to go step by step and actually do the whole thing, but an agent is really where these things can be enforced. So we just gave him all of the system instructions. Some of them are dynamically. We gave him some MCPs that it can pull the data of scenarios of services. Basically, each folder that we have is a service, and a service is comprised of scenarios, and each scenario needs to conform to all of our standards, using scenario properties correctly and everything else. So that's Captain Convention. The scenario looks like this. Basically, Slack is talking to this scenario. The agent runs and gives back the results. And whenever we in the team build an actual service or a scenario, we go through Captain Convention. We basically tell it on Slack to check our scenarios, and it would tell us which tests it's going to run. We confirm that we actually did everything that's required. You can go to the next one, yeah. So that's on the left side. Just check the scenario. It tells me what it's going to do. Stage 1, environment security. Stage 2, scheduling performance. Then I just say, OK, I'm done. I did all that I had to do. And then it just says, OK, it just sends a summary, reviewed a single scenario as requested, tells me which validations passed, which things I haven't done, module naming, custom fields. Custom fields is actually part of the custom properties that we have for scenarios. So we have properties for is prod, if the scenario is in production, or severity. Maybe it's a critical scenario. Maybe it's a low severity scenario. And then all these things are built into this agent, and it knows what to check. And the final assessment, it's passed. There were no validations that failed, just some warnings about modules that were named. And then I can set a meeting with my boss, who's here on the front row, and tell him that it's all ready, and actually be sure of it, because my Captain Convention agent verified everything. So that's a huge thing that was built in our team, and it's really cool.
This blew all of our minds when we were discussing this earlier. I mean, this is an absolutely amazing way to bring consistency to your organizations and your setup with Make.
Yeah.
Laurent made a great point. Some of you may even have Captain Convention on your team who's enforcing a lot of this, so this can take a lot of work off of that particular individual, right?
Yeah.
So let's move on into another.
I mean, that's how we did it before,
yeah?
The agent, right? We would meet and show, I would set a meeting with a colleague and show him everything, him or her, and then they would say, oh, okay, yeah, I think it's ready, deploy it. But we might have just missed a couple of stuff because we're human, but the agent
Yeah, it's true, and different
Yeah.
humans have different ideas, right? So we
can
could
be
have multiple captain conventions happening and nobody on the same page. Yeah, so thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So how do you deploy AI use cases and how do you do it safely? There's a lot of risk reward that goes into a lot of this. Lior, do you have any thoughts on this, knowing that Captain Convention actually uses a lot of AI?
Yeah, so actually, it's a lot more complicated than you think. It's supposed to be AI and just work, right, out of the box. But basically, what we do when we build stuff is we put every interaction that we have into a database. So later we can evaluate, or a data store or anything, and later we can evaluate what worked, what didn't work. Basically, you could do the same prompt 10 times and get 10 different results, or 9 same results and 1 different result. So you want to see these things afterwards and analyze them. Yeah, well, I'll let Dan
Dan, this
speak
is your
about.
slide. What do you think?
So, like, when I really have to build something with AI, like something useful, not for LinkedIn, I usually build it first, of course, and I don't write. I usually send the results to myself, and I would do it 20 times to make sure the outputs are somewhat consistent and good enough. And of course, I keep improving my prompt. But eventually, it's good enough to go for production. And at that point, I still try to retain some of the human touch. And I use Human in the Loop, which is a make app or make module, where you can ask for an approval when AI is not sure, right? So you run your prompt, and maybe part of the prompt is also, hey, give me confidence. How sure you are? Is it 1 or is it 0.8? And if it's below a certain threshold, you can fire a different route, which will generate this human in the loop approval request. You can send it via Slack. Essentially, it's just a page which opens, and then you can decide approved, adjust, or decline. So I find this very useful. I know it's enterprise only, unfortunately, but guys, maybe you should get enterprise.
I mean, it's also a concept. You don't have to have the module.
Yeah, you can do it through Slack, for example.
You can send out notifications with 2 buttons on Slack or whatever, and have a human in the loop for every interaction, and until you're confident enough in that it's doing the right job,
There are many paths, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to transition into the second portion of our talk today, which is on maintenance. And there's really one big topic that stands out as crucially important, and that's error management. I'd love to hear some perspectives on error management. Lior, I know that this is one that's near and dear to your heart. Do you want to take it? You two are on.
Yeah, so
I give the mic to Lior.
we have 2 instances of Make, something that's already, we're not quite using. That's the OEM version. I don't know who knows it or not, but the first thing that happened when I joined AppsFlyer is we wanted to migrate everything from the OEM environment to the enterprise environment, and we couldn't do it unless we have proper error handling in place. And basically, we have an on-call. We're always on call, so we have incidents in Jira that are being created. That's what you're seeing here. And we basically look at the notifications coming from Make and opening incidents for ourselves. So that's how it looks on Jira, and that's how it looks on Make. You see the naming conventions, right? Because Captain Convention wouldn't let me do it otherwise. Basically, that's reading notifications from Make every 5 minutes, and actually fetches them, creates a Jira ticket for a warning or for an error or for a scenario that's been shut down. And then if a scenario, let's say a scenario or some scenarios, because we have sub-scenarios that are calling one another, if they fail and they belong to the same service, all of those incidents would be collected into what is called a problem, and that way our on-call queue doesn't just explode. And it's just like makes flexibility that let us just use both Make API and Jira API to achieve these. Here we're just showing scenario data. So if you actually want to be on top of your errors and your scenarios, you can see when it's shut down or when it's actually on. You can see if you have incomplete executions, that's the DLQ count here. And you can even see the used packages. So let's say you know that some service had an outage or something like this. You would be able to see the used packages, and you would be able to look into your database and of all scenarios and understand which scenarios might have been affected by something, by this outage. So that's another tool.
I have a question for the audience here.
Yeah.
Who is using Make App or Make API for anything? Okay, it's not bad. Maybe guys, if you are not using it, check out our API. It's pretty rich, and you will be surprised what kind of information you can find there. Speaking of the next slide, there is this notification endpoint where our framing got moved. But you see, you can list notifications from Make. So when you get, for example,
I
emails
probably
and
moved the
stuff.
picture. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's fine. I forbid you.
We've been having slide problems all afternoon.
Supposed to be on the endpoint.
Sorry,
Yeah.
forgive you. So we have.
Don't let that undermine the point, right? This is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
useful stuff here. So can you restate what this does?
Yeah, so you can list error notifications by calling an API. So you don't have to necessarily reply on the error or warning emails, which automatically go out.
Yes.
And this is going to give you structured output.
That's what the process does. Like, we fetch unread notifications. This notification object has an unread only parameter that you can look at. And every 5 minutes we just look if there are unread notifications. If there are, then that's an incident. That's an error that happened. And you can build so much logic into these things, just like I explained with problems and like our on-call process.
All right, last point on this, Laurent.
Great. We had a different approach, but the same goal here is to be on top of the errors, not behind. So what's here, it's a webhook that gets the automatic emails from and the automatic notifications from Make. Simply, this scenario will check the custom property upon the scenario in question, checking the owner of the scenario, and say, okay, we have a gigantic Slack called Global Make console, where you can read, that's funny because I'm talking to myself, scenario is requesting attention for you, in case I'm in vacation or something. Doubled with a targeted one, so it's a personal message directed to me, requesting attention for you. So there, I am just parsing and extracting the message from the email and translating it with funny icons and the message. But the goal is to be aware of what's happening and not being behind. I chose not to consume my operations, so that's a message for whoever wants to hear me, but I don't want to waste my operations every minute so I just build the webhook, but I will definitely take
And by the way, you can combine the two. Just use the trigger from emails, but then fetch the notification when the email happens. So you don't have to run every 5 minutes.
I will definitely do that.
Yeah, exactly. You even mention yourself when you write here.
We definitely won't miss it, right? All right, so we're down to our last 10 minutes of the calls, or the panel, excuse me. I'll spend a lot of time on Zoom. I'd love to go ahead and jump into Q&A. So there are a lot of topics. We have some other things we can share too if nobody has questions, but I want to definitely open up the mic to the audience. We have one over here.
First of all, thank you all. This was really insightful. A question around starting with the process of designing the scenarios. What are your approaches? Do you do some lucid charts before, maybe some pseudocodes? Like, how do you brainstorm when a large project, which is maybe going to be multiple scenarios coming together, what is your process of reaching the final conclusion? And maybe also, how long, what the timelines usually look like. It can maybe give us more insight into being more realistic and not succumbing to our internal pressure of no, I need to do this too fast, or I'm too slow.
You want to go first?
Sounds like the parts that we cut out.
Yeah.
This session, I'll let you in on a secret, was plan, build, and maintain, but then we understood we only have 45 minutes, so
We could be
we're left
here
with
all
build
day,
and maintain.
definitely.
But questions from the crowd.
All right,
So
take it.
Plan is back.
Prepared,
guys.
see? Prepared?
Basically, we start asking as many questions as possible with the business owner, whoever is asking for that process, or if it's us, then just discuss it. We have what we call a BRD, Business Requirements Doc. We'll take it, just have as much information as possible. It can be a lucid chart. It can be just a text document, but you want to get as much information as you can. Then together, or maybe even the business owner can do it on his own, some high-level design. So when this happens, then I want this to happen, and I want this to happen, and I want this to happen. And when we actually start thinking about how actually we are going to do it, we'll have what we call a low-level design, right? And that's when this is the part where you can actually start building, and mapping the fields and stuff, and understand, and go into API documentations and understand how you're going to build it. Just as we said, like just as we said at the start of this talk, you want to understand what's the best way, but don't spend too much time on it. Just build it, make it work, and then when you go and actually have something to work with, iterate and refactor and make all these things. But for the planning phase, this is technically, like practically how we do it. Before that, have even a prioritization period, or like this can be an initiative that comes from the managerial levels, or this can be an initiative that someone wants to actually do from the bottom up, as we say, which happens a lot these days with AI. People have dreams and they want to build it. And then you do these things, you maybe just do a POC and transfer it to prioritization. Maybe that's not what you should be focusing on. But yeah, that's how it is. Basically ask what, why, like what's the goal of this process? What are we building here? And then dive into the how you actually want to build it and start.
So Laurent, you mentioned that you don't like the watch module for your mailbox because it consumes a lot of credits and operations, and I really agree with that point. But how did you, I missed the point, how did you exactly manage to send a webhook when an error happens based on the email?
The trick.
Should we go back?
Wow, that's like the best question.
Great question, mate. Great
It's not
question.
staged, guys. All right.
Not at all.
He's not a
Look,
plan.
he prepared a slide.
Yeah.
What a
Spent
question.
A lot of energy there. So that's a bit geeky, but definitely we underestimate the mail hook module. So you have the webhook that will be called, and really it's great because you don't have to watch it's called, perfect. You have the same thing for the mails. So you have the mail hook will give you a generic email, like blah, blah, blah at Celandis.com, which will receive everything. And if you are a Google client or whatever for your mail, you will have somewhere the ability to configure a simple routing
To forward the email.
expression, let's say, for the non-technical guys today. But then again, that's a nice trick. So if you are not at peace with regular expression, you can use AI to generate one for you. But at the end of the day, it's just an email and a routing in your Google account that will send everything to your mail hook when you're free to extract variables and make simple routing. In this example, and I'll finish on this part, there is something additional that you all guys must know. So mail is annoying and old and not secure and a lot of stuff. But in the protocol or in the specifications, you have the plus that you can use with mails. So let's say my account, my personal account, is used everywhere for accounting, for production, for everything, and even for trial periods that you want to have infinitely. So you can use account with the plus and say, okay, Laurent plus billing, I will use this for Conto, let's say, and Laurent plus tech at chargesguru.com, I will use it in production in AWS, for instance. Everything will arrive in Laurent at ChargeGuru, but the filtering behind is really simpler. You don't have to deal with objects written in Spanish or German, or I'm not speaking German. Shame on me. But yeah, you don't have to translate objects or subjects or whatever. It's just plus what? Okay, routing and go on. So this is an example of a scenario that will take dynamically the type, the vendor, and the scope of a CSV file coming from our partner. So I have only a partnership at chargesguru.com that is configured in my Google console. But with 3 pluses, I can just reroute and say, okay, this is this partner, so it needs this channel configured in my Salesforce, so I can redirect the leads and automate everything behind. And whether it's 1 lead or 1,000 leads, it takes 21 operations because of this trick. So yeah.
Great.
Nice question. Thank you for that.
I'm wondering if you have, well, basically we manage multiple clients with a similar workflow. So basically, if we make an adjustment, we have to make the adjustment for all of them. So I'm wondering if you have a solution for like the different connections you have for different clients with the same workflow. If you understand the question.
Okay, that's a tough one. Do you have your clients in separate Make accounts, I assume?
Yeah, currently.
Okay, so I would probably go back to Make API here. And there is a lot of which can be achieved through API. So for example, you can have your scenario, aka blueprint, right? And you can copy this blueprint across multiple organizations and then attach the right connection IDs to it, again, through API. It does require some work. It's not really visual, but it could be done. Right? I'm not sure if it's always doable. For example, there's a lot of 2 connections which you may need to create, but if the connections exist, you should be able to manipulate the blueprint to the right connection.
So like a search and replace.
Yeah. Speaking of Makes API, I have a trick here as well for you if you are interested.
All right, let's go to it.
One thing which I do internally at Make is that every day I pull up all edited blueprints and I store them to Google Drive. The JSONs, just that. Yeah. And now let's say I get an email and it has strange subject, right? So the subject is saying like, can you show it? Something is missing in Salesforce, blah, 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 right? And I don't know which scenario it is. I can't find it in the grid because it's too granular, but I know it's a hard-coded value in the scenario. And the beautiful thing of Google Drive is that once you upload something there, it's basically full-text search, not just file names, but also contents of the files. So when I search for this not so nice value, it's going to give me the scenario name or the file name, which contains like team ID and scenario ID. So every little detail which is hard-coded into any scenario, I can just find it within like 20 seconds.
That's crazy. That's nice.
Pro tip there.
Can I add something?
Please.
I don't have a lot of seconds. Just to add some to this answer. You can look for Make CLI on GitHub. That I personally use, and I also crying for a maintenance and something there. But yeah, it helps me to take the scenario from the whatever country team and put it in the production team with the connection for the production for Salesforce. And it allows you to download the blueprint plus its dependencies, so connection, data stores, whatever, webhooks, etc. And you have a file when you can map and say this connection is this connection in this team. And you have a pull and a push command with this make CLI unmaintained. Please maintain it. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so we are at time.
We doing the last trick
you
or
can
not?
give 2 minutes to do your last tip?
I'll do it.
All right.
Fine.
So this is worth saying.
The last trick, guys, is actually how you can. It's not this. Yeah.
Yeah, here we are.
You can look for this thing on the Make community. It has video. It has. It shows everything. It shows how it's done. Basically, one of the things that we sometimes want to do is delay the rest of the execution of a scenario for like 2 days ahead, right? Or whatever. We just have the sleep module for 5 minutes. That's not enough for anything. So we have a trick. And the trick is, click, that you put your execution started at time inside a variable. And then you have whatever formula is there. But the formula basically says, make an error right now, that, just like initiate an error on purpose, which creates, and with the break module, it creates an incomplete execution. And then you say for this incomplete execution, retry in 4,320 minutes, and you can even go to 44,640 minutes, which is a month ahead. So I can just stop the scenario now and tell it continue a month ahead. And then when it's a month ahead, it will look at the execution time compared to now, right? And 4,320 minutes in the future is more than 4,319 minutes in the future, and then the scenario will just continue. So that's a really weird way of doing it, but it works. And you can delay scenarios up to a month in the future. It's crazy.
Lior must love Make, otherwise he would not have come up with that. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you all for coming.
Works 100% of the time. I just got to say it. All right, guys?
I'm not sure if it's a bug. I don't know what to call that, but I love it. So thank you again to our panelists.
Thanks for our moderator.
Thank you. Thank you all for the questions, and thank you all for coming to Make this year. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we wish you well for the rest of the day. Cheers.
We'll be around, so
Yeah, you can find us outside.